Hello, everyone. It is Mark Noble from Grove. Just wanted to go through some of the Aspen Discovery enhancements that Grove has done for 2505. All right. We're going to start by taking a look at boundless updates. So as you'll notice here with boundless, we've added the ability to define a name for each setting. Previously, these would have just shown based off the ID. That got kind of confusing when you have a lot of different settings in a large consortium. Um, so now you have the ability to name them just by editing them and entering your name so that you can find them a little more easily. Also, with very large collections, with lots of different settings for boundless, there were issues where basically each setting or each collection would index in series. We've updated that now so that you can index those in parallel if you would like to. So there is a new setting under system variables called the number of boundless settings to process in parallel. And that defaults to one. So same behavior that we've had before. We now have the ability to increase that based off how your server is tuned. You may be able to do as many as you'd like. We're doing 50 here, which is processing all of them in parallel. But depending on your server setup, you may want to go with potentially more or less than that, depending on how things are configured. What that looks like then within the export log is here. Let's just refresh. But basically, all of these are processing in parallel. We can see that this is a new run since I refreshed. So here we've got 500. They're all processing at the same time. We're loading all of those updates. And then just depending on how many are actually updated, we're getting different counts. You do have the ability now as well to filter based off settings. So that's going to use that setting name. So if we wanted to say, hey, what is Chicago Ridge's collection doing? We can apply that and say like, okay, well here, these each took 8, 9, 10 minutes. We've got one currently indexing and how many products are being updated each time. So cool stuff there. Good for those very large consortia that have a lot of different settings. Next, from the catalogers group, we have made a lot of changes based off of feedback they had in their meetings. So a lot of these are related to how MARC records are displayed and indexed. We did a lot this time looking at subfields. So for example, previously this was showing as Thompson T. Lee, 1862 to 1954 Thomas Lee. That was not matching the order in the MARC record. So if we look down here, it should be Thomas T. Lee, Thomas Lee, and then the dates. So what we're doing is rather than processing the subfields alphabetically, we're processing based off the order that they appear. So that is cool. There was another example of that. I think it was this one. So here in the it was that same one. So here in the information, the physical description of it, it was rendering all of the subfield A's before subfield F. So it would just say 0.5 parentheses 3, 8 cubic feet, V plus folders, which didn't really make a lot of sense. That is now displaying much more sensibly as 0.5 cubic feet, 3 volumes plus 8 folders. So good stuff there. Also a lot of things with the dash dash separator. So for example, within the table of contents here, so if we look at the table of contents, we were adding a dash dash always. And now we're removing those, so we're not showing those anywhere within that. So here we can see we have the 505 with the dash dash. We're just not showing those to clean up the display. So good cataloging says we have them. Good display says we shouldn't show those. So good stuff there from the catalogers group. Also separating the 245s with spaces. So for example here, this was showing as the Immortal Iron Fist, the complete collection period. Then it was squished, and the volumes 1, 2 showed immediately after the period um, to reflect what was here. So now we are adding a space between each of those just to make that look a little bit better. Last thing we did was with subject fields, we were adding the dash dash separator. Um, and we were always adding that, and there were times when that wasn't correct. So we were getting Lincoln Abraham dash dash 1809 to 1865 career in law. That was incorrect. It should have just been all within that. So basically, we updated so that before um, subfields X, Y, Z, and V, we are getting the dash dash, but not with the like subfield D. So that looks a lot better there. So that's good stuff. Last thing we did was related to list updates. So here we have the ability, and I refresh this from. So the appears on list is showing different lists. We updated so that we can kind of control that. So previously we were showing vegetarian cooking. So all of the index lists, and now we're saying we're respecting the information that's in indexing. So here, if I'm looking at my library system and I look at my public lists to include, right now that's set to all lists. If I restrict that and say, hey, I only want to show lists from this library, I can restrict that down. And then when we refresh, that Elm one's going to go away because it was created by another library. Um, we're also doing some different sorting with that. So the idea is that, hey, lists from your library will appear first. So if I had named this, so if Maple or something, it was Maple Vegetarian Cooking, I was on Elm's interface, we would see Elm first. So good stuff there. A couple of other things to talk about, but not really show. So with Symphony, we've updated. So when you're doing scan and go for LiDA, the title and due date will appear correctly. Previously, it was just showing unknown title after each time you scanned. So that has been corrected. Uh, yeah, and just a few little updates to like series information, especially when we're deleting series. We were having some cases where we are getting duplicates and that kind of thing. So lots of great good stuff in 2505, and we look forward to hearing all of your feedback on it. Showing you all the neat stuff we have coming in 2506 next time. Thanks, everyone.